Okay, we're holding the Niddah. It's Siman test in Taaruvot. We last discussed the combination of atzomos. Atzomos, whether it's atzomos of heter or atzomos of isur, do they make a difference? Machlokes between the mechaber and the Ramah. The mechaber goes with the shita that atzomos isur, unless they're very soft, perhaps, unless we're talking about the moyach, which is something else. The regular atzomos really, like the Taz says, are not bnei achila. They're not edible. No problem combining it with the heter to be mevatel the isur. As long as they fell in raw, they were not cooked, so they did not absorb. They do have a koach to absorb. And if they fell in raw, no problem. The Ramah says that we're machmir not to be mitzaref that some of the isur, and of course we do not include them as part of the isur, but we don't use them for being mevatel with the heter. But we can use that summers of the heter. And that summers can make a difference sometimes depending on the quantity of summers that you may have. So I think it's very interesting. I mean, there's obviously a certain order in the mechaber. So the mechaber is going to discuss the halacha of what exactly is included in the pot. Now that we've discussed the status of bones, and we had certain issues with them, it's a whole Gemara, a whole sugi about it. It's Rabbi Shela. What about everything else? Do we include everything else in the pot? What is actually included?
I thought
Yeah.
that the bones do not combine to be mevatel the.
That's correct.
That will be the Ramah.
That's correct, right.
Mechaber,
Right. Mechaber says yes. Yeah. But neither do we use the bones of the isur
to the
to
isur.
the isur. Right. So I was saying that it's interesting that the Mechaber does follow with another area that is somewhat discussed in the Gemara. What is exactly included in the pot that we have to consider in the bittul? Yes.
It strikes me that it's right.
All right.
So the Gemara in 60, where you have to be mevatel zoa.
In 100.
In 100.
Right.
The ones who said 60, the bone of the egg.
Right.
The ones who said 100
Excluded the bones. Right. It was
so
meat versus
the
meat.
60 like the ones that included the bone, but we passed the legabe, the bone that we excluded.
Right, because remember there's a shita that whole Gemara is only an asmachta.
Right. No, but
Right?
I still find it.
All we learn from that Gemara is the shear of 60. Right. It's not that we could learn halacha from that Gemara concerning the bones.
I still find it interesting that we go with the shear of the ones that include the bones, whereas we pass them like the ones who hold 100.
Right. In a way, yeah. If that's the way you interpret the Gemara, there's two ways of interpreting the Gemara. Right. Yeah. Real quickly, we're going to go over it before we go to the other sugya of the rest of the pot. Mechaber and Sif Gimel holds that Bashar Yisurim chutz mi Basar b'chol chaticho ablu be'isur me'isur mitztarefes levatel ha'isur. Now we know by now what Hanan is, and we know that the Mechaber's shita is that there's only Hanan in Basar b'cholov. So therefore, it makes sense what he says that in Shar Yisurim, in other words, anything else other than Basar b'cholov, the chaticha that may have absorbed an isur, that chaticha itself, even though it absorbed the isur, and it will remain asur, so what if it will remain asur? It still has the koach to be mevatel the isur. It could be mitztaref. Just, I can include the bones, according to the Mechaber Shita, of the davar ha'asur, and I can include the basar itself, which is beseder gomor. It's a regular kosher piece of meat. It was just bolei achelav. The Mechaber does not hold Hanan, so there's no reason why I can't include that basar to be mitztaref, to be mevatel all the isur that's there. I'm not only going to take everything else in the pot, I'm going to take this basar itself that has the isur to be mevatel, because this is
part of the six.
Yeah, no problem. But the Ramah, of course, says the ein nohagin ken. Why? Ki kaimano bechol yisurim chaticha nasas nevela. And once you hold chaticha nasas nevela, even though it's midrabanan.
Before I'm sorry to interrupt you. But so we meet that absorb the chaylev with the other fruits to be 60
against the chaylev. That's correct. Right.
Not against the itself.
Right. Now we eventually will discuss a little bit more in depth. Why does that chaticha remain asur, even according to the Mechaber, because of the din of which says what? I really don't know how much time came out. Simply stated. I simply don't know how much time. Maybe there's still some time left. Okay? So simply stated, that's the reason why that piece of meat can remain asur, and yet I can be mitzaref it to be mevatel the isur.
But this is only regarding how much came absorbed it. But with respect to whatever did come out, we say that evenly.
Yes, that's correct, yes. We need to say that. We make that assumption. Right. So the Ramah just makes a very quick statement that we follow Chanan b'Shar Yisurim, even though it's the Rabbanon, and therefore we would not be mitzaref, we would not be mitzaref that piece of meat that has an Isur Belua to be mevatel the Isur. Okay, so that's easy. Right? Seif Dalad. And now we go on to the next sugya, which is also based on the Gemara. We have a kedera here, we have a pot here, we have an Isur in the pot. We have a taaruvot, right? We have a mixture. And what are we going to be used to be meshire against this Isser? We have potatoes, we have beans, we have lentils, we have all kinds of, it's called in English, I think dregs, right, below, in the pot, right? That's all the little pieces of whatever is not intact anymore from the cooking process goes down to the very, very bottom. It's like sediment in wine. And that's called kippah in the lashon of the Gemara. Kippah with a kuf, not this kind of a kippah. Right. So you have like this. You have misharin. The maskana is misharin beroitev. That's the sauce, the kippah. And he says in the parenthesis, pirusha dak, that which is very thin, shel basar betavlin, the spice, the meat, amitasef b'shulek dera, that has accumulated at the very bottom of the pot. All the residues, everything, basically, ubechatichot, and with all the other pieces too. Umesharin, he says, and when you calculate a heter v'isor, he makes a point, it needs to be kemoshe bolefonenu. It needs to be as it comes to us for inspection. Very important point. Why? It's very possible that afal pi shehoyo beheter yoyser mitchila v'nismayit b'bishuloi. It could possibly be that in the very beginning, when the isor fell in and the heter fell in, in other words, when it was all mixed in, it was a bigger piece, the heter, and somehow it shrunk through the cooking process. Now, in shrinking, two things can happen, keep in mind. Part of the shrinkage could be dissipated in thin air because of the bishul, because of the fire. Okay? But part of it is, for a fact, absorbed naturally into the walls of the dera. It's both. But it's both. It's not one or the other, and it's not. It's for sure. There's no reason not to assume that it has not been absorbed. Just we can't always tell how much. And the Mechaber therefore makes a very simple statement. It makes no difference. In other words, it makes no difference what it was before. It could have been more. Afal pi shoya behet yosef b'chilo v'nismayit. And I make that assumption. V'nivla b'gdera. It says v'nivla. I have to look at what I have right now. Okay.
But it's the same too.
Well, of course, we don't know that yet, right? The Mechaber just makes a plain statement. He doesn't know whether we learned the Gemara. He doesn't know whether we looked at the Adim Meforshim. But when he was writing this, there were no Meforshim, and they came after him, right? So he's making a simple halacha. This is what you have. This is what you inspect, regardless of what you had fall in the beginning. Doesn't say anything about whether you knew, whether you don't know. This is the halacha. So he's giving us really. Chab is really giving us a maskana that's based sometimes in the Gemara, of course, and many times what the Torah says, or what the Rambam says. Then he makes, however, a small distinction, that's really small but a big distinction. He says, but I will be easy, I will be lenient with you. That if it happens to be min b'minoi, hanemile b'min b'shenomino. This is all, this halacha that I just told you is min b'shenomino. Min b'shenomino, there's tam. Tam is keikar. And you know what? You're dealing with a deraisa when you're dealing with tam ki, according to me, of course, according to the Mechaber, right? Not according to the Rambam. Okay? So therefore, I will grant you that if it's min b'minoi situation, where you for sure have rov, okay, that, in other words, you really only need rov, midaraisa, so it's really the whole thing is a derabbanan here, the shishin. Mesharin gam b'ma shebolo gdera, v'omed b'fdora. You can also take into account that which may have been absorbed in the gdera. It is there. Umishar is be'omed yofe. You really have to take an estimate here because it's not possible for you. You may not know accurately. Okay?
And yafa means just.
Yeah, you figure out. Yeah. You can take it be'omed yofe. Veroin oiso kilu hu be'ein. And this blias, it's actually something that is pretty much be'ein. We're using it like it would be part of the pot. But I'm letting you know that that's only the blias. There's something else that went away. Whatever was disappeared as a result of the fire, it's gone. That we can't use. That which is still around in another fashion in the walls, that I could use, but I will only let you use this heter, this leniency, in minna minoi. Okay, that's the halacha so far.
So when we're talking about something that was in the walls, are we talking here about actual substance, or are we talking about?
No, we're not talking about tasting. We're
No,
actually
about
actual substance. Yes.
So in the steel, in a Harris pot, I could see that there would be a noticeable difference in the volume of the.
There may be.
If you take old pots,
Meat shrinks.
you could, what gets attached to the walls that will never come out of the.
Well, eventually through Hagala you can take out everything that's in the walls of the pot.
That's true, but if you just cooked and you
Right. It
remains.
remains there. Right.
It's visible and obviously.
Yeah.
We're talking about not stuck to the surface of the walls. We're talking about actually absorbed to the walls themselves, in the middle of the wall.
Oh.
Looking at the thickness of the wall. So I had to think that in a steel pot, there is so much that's absorbed into the thickness of the wall that I will notice a size of that.
Right. Well, remember the shrinkage is a combination of the two. That's what we said, and Mechaber points that out.
Yeah.
It's a combination of two things. It's not only in the walls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now.
I assumed it was this.
No, it's not only blias. It's not only blias. That's what Mechaber points out, that you cannot include that which has dissipated. In other words, you may have a lot more gone than what there's in the blias that can account for it. And where is it gone? How did it get through the fire? Especially if you don't use a pressure cooker. I think a pressure cooker really retains more in the pot.
David actually means and not substance.
That's what I'm saying. I the walls.
No, substance. We're talking about substance here.
Because if it was only taste, then I have the exact same amount of substance for me now as I had before.
Well, actually, chemically speaking, I mean, what do you really have in it? So you have the substance in the form of tam.
Yeah.
Okay,
There is
substance in the form of. It's not. Yeah. So it's not really.
Well, but if it's all taste and not actual molecules of substance that went into the wall, then why would I notice the molecules have to be somewhere?
Right. Yeah, but you cannot. I guess you cannot observe it as such. You cannot observe the substance. It's obviously gone.
Has the volume of substance changed from the time before it started cooking? Because of absorptions in the wall of the pot?
Yes, definitely.
So then substance had to go into the walls if it's because of the walls of the pot.
It's like they say with physics, with energy. You can't it doesn't disappear, it just transforms into something else. You can't destroy it, right? It's gone from one element to another. It's gone from being one thing to going...
But it's state. But it doesn't turn from a molecule.
Not exactly, not the way we understand taste.
Part of the hard thing is
taste is also not.
Yes. What is that?
Part of the hard part is it much.
Right, exactly. But it
does.
does.
It wouldn't affect anything.
Yeah, but it does amount a little bit. It does. It does make a little bit of a difference.
Yeah, we see
remember throughout Basar B'chalav, I mean, you dealt with that issue just with Tatam alone. Yeah.
So
but there's not. No. We know it's something, but that there is a lot of it.
Blias.
Yeah, there's blias. Sure. Yeah. Yes.
But mino to be gravy. But there's some liquid that conveys.
Well, anytime you have potatoes, meat.
But mino, what would be an example of meat?
Two kinds of meat.
Without gravy? I mean,
right.
So, but you're saying that somehow mino, which I understand.
Right.
But I'm looking at where usually having a pot of food you have mino. They're together. So like we look with solid. You put the one.
Right.
So how would it be as meat, for example, or whatever it might be?
Right, anything, the two separate kinds of food items, we mean be'eno mina. Potato, the typical potatoes and meat, right? Yeah, in a liquid. We're talking about in a liquid here. In liquid form. You need shishim. You need shishim even if it's yavesh be'yavesh, even if it would be dry. Because
it's cooking.
Even if it's not cooking.
Min
be'eno minoi.
But a piece of pork meat is lying next to...
No, then you need roiv.
You need six on a plate, away from the fire.
Well, then it's distinguishable. So, I mean, it would be difficult. How would you, you can't be mevatel it.
No, but it was cooking together. You wouldn't have tasted...
Right, then you have time. Sure.
So you said
meat with meat. Two kinds of meat.
But just without any liquid?
One is usher and one is not.
And without any liquid?
Without any liquid.
Then you can have an
Right, exactly. Right, without any liquid, that would be an example. Sure. That could be an example.
But they're maybe against or something?
No, but it makes no difference if you introduce another enominoi, because remember we talked about that when you have min and minoi and enominoi, you say the din of salik. Yeah, it will not always make a difference if it's in liquid or if it's dry, except whether you need roiv or shishim, shishim midirabanan at least, because it's min b'minoi. Eventually we'll be learning that, the halacha about min b'minoi. We haven't gotten to that yet.
How do you estimate it into the walls and the container?
Right. There are some shittas that hold it because we're not experts in knowing how to estimate, so we can't use the whole idea of blias. Because with blias it's a very difficult. You need an expert. That's the maskana. If you read through the mefarshim on calculating blias, if you calculate blias, you really need an expert to be able to do.
And does any of this what you started with?
Yes, we're going to get to that.
Okay.
That's one of the important details of this halacha. Yeah.
Before we get that, since right now we're saying we don't know how much we do.
Right. Right now the raw halacha.
In the case of min,
yes.
Why is this any different from? What do I care whether it was nishbach that's being poured out of the pot?
It's very similar. You're right. It's very similar.
In that case, I said
we're makel.
I can assume that was 60.
In nishbach we're makel.
I had to make any assumptions about.
Yeah. But here remember we're learning a different din, a new din about blias. You're right. There are various situations, including kachal, where we're lenient, where we use the kachal itself, to be mevatel, the iser.
But we said min b'minu b'shbach.
Right.
I don't know if there was 60.
Okay.
I'm allowed to make the presumption. It's a safek derabanan.
It's a safek derabanan. Very well.
I assume that there was 60.
Yes.
Why don't I instead of saying I will be mitzaref blias and mitzaref them with generously? Why don't I just say it's a safek derabanan lekula? I don't know how much was in the right now. It was mitzamtzim. Instead of flying out of the pot, it somehow disappeared. I don't know how much.
No, because you remember here we're talking about the whole sugya of blias. Can we at all consider it? According to those that don't consider it, it's not even a question. I don't care if it's min b'minoi. See what I mean? The Ramah doesn't have any comment on this, so everybody seems to say that the Ramah probably agrees with the Mechaber. But guess what? Everybody else is against them. Yeah.
But they weren't against it when it was nishbach.
No, not in the case of nishbach.
Well, why is this different?
Because they don't agree with the whole issue of blias.
Forget blias.
No, it's only.
It's not another case of.
No, because we know certain things here.
But we don't know how much was in the beginning.
But we know now. And
when it's nishbach, I also know how much.
No. Yeah, but we have to go by what we see now. As the Mefarshim explained, you don't have a raya. You don't have anywhere a real makor that you go by what was there before.
But by nishbach I did go by what was there before. By nishbach I did go by what was there.
Over there you were aware of what was there before.
No, that I didn't have nishbach. I had safek lekula.
I'm sorry, by nishbach you did not know exactly.
I said here I don't know.
Right.
I had safek derabanan lekula, which allowed me to presume that there was 60. But I say here also safek derabanan lekula, which allows me to presume.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's similar. You're right. It's a similar. It's a similar halacha. But if you make the assumption, okay, that blias can be helpful, if blias are not helpful, and I know for sure I don't have.
If I know for sure.
Oh, okay.
No. Right. If I know for sure I didn't have.
Okay, so we're gonna see the various chilukim. We haven't gotten there. There are various chilukim because one of the scenarios is I know I didn't have enough.
I'm missing something.
Okay, you have to wait. You have to wait to hear all the chilukim.
Actually,
There's a chiluk There's a chiluk whether there is enough now, there was enough before, there's only enough with the blias. There's various chilukim, various scenarios.
Now, I'll grant you, if I know there was enough for.
Yes.
No?
Okay, let's wait. Let's go one step at a time. Yeah, otherwise, we're going to be repeating a lot of it. From this halacha, there are basically 2 points that are being made over here, or 2 questions that can be raised. We want to know if we include the blias or not. I mean, that's something that needs to be considered because this halacha is based on that sugya, that questions about the blias. So that's one thing that we want to figure out. Is there a consensus? Does everybody agree? What's the story about the blias in the Kedera? The second question is, we want to make a determination in calculating. Do we calculate always based on what we observe now? Or is calculation be ever done based on what was there before? Okay? So these are really the issues, these are really the questions, these are the points that are pretty much brought out in this halacha. Even though the Mechaber makes it very easy, it's because of his opinion, and that in the end, we basically look at the situation as it is right now. We don't consider anything that may have been in the past. And we're going to see why he says what he says, where does he take it from. So we have to go to the Mekor. In the Mekor, we have a Rashi, a nice long Rashi. And even way there's different ways of learning into the Rashi. But from Rashi it appears to be very clear that in the Maskana, we're Machmer. From the Gemara, there appears to be that there is an opinion that we can include the blias. But Rashi says, Lemaskana, we are Machmer, and we're not Metzaref what was Nivla. Why? He says so. Because in the same way that you're saying that part of the heter was Nivla, part of the Isser was also Nivla. Does everybody understand that? The basic understanding of why Rashi is Machmir, even though there's a clear opinion that you can include the Blias is something that can be considered, nevertheless we're Machmir. Why? Because in the same way that you could say that some of the heter that shrunk is in form of blias, so is some of the Isser in the form of blias. So the blias can't help us here. So we're basically stuck with what we have in front of us. And that's what the Mechaber says. You know what? Forget the whole thing about blias. It's too difficult. There could be Isser Nivla. Just look at it the way it is right now. It shrunk, of course, so did the Isser. Okay? Very simple. So the Rashba and the Ran learn in this Rashi, they infer from his words that if there was a scenario that we did see, and therefore knew the amount of shear of the Isser that fell in, and we look at it right now, and it's the same. The Isser somehow did not change. I mean, the heter may have changed, but the Isser didn't. If this scenario would exist, based on the way they understand from Rashi, the Rashba and the Ran, they say we would be able in that scenario to calculate the blias of the heter too. The heter now has shrunk, it's smaller. We know how much Isser fell in, and it's exact same amount of Isser now. Once we see the Isser being the same amount as it was before, then the taina of Rashi, that there would be blias of Isser just as much, no longer is relevant. Everybody understand so far?
Yeah.
So the Rashba and the Ran say, the Rashba very much holds of this, that this is understood from Rashi, that Rashi would agree with that. That in that case we would allow for the blias of the heter. Let me skip over a little bit before we go on to the Pri Megadim about this. Pri Megadim and Rabbi Akiva Eiger both bring down a very important point. Not everybody agrees with them, but they seem to be holding or learning in the Rashba that the reason why the Rashba was mekel in min b'minoi, which is what the Mechaber brings down the halacha, is only when two things are known. Two things are known, not one. One, how much Isser fell in, and a very important detail that I know for a fact that in the beginning there was Shishim against the Isser. The very important details, you will see why in a minute. The Pri Megadim and Rabbi Akiva Eiger learn that what Rashba said and what the Mechaber brings down, that in min beminoi I would allow for the blias, what the Rashba meant was only in the case where I knew two things: how much Isser fell in, and that there was 60 against the Isser when it fell in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, if I know that there was,
Right.
that's sufficient to know how much Isser fell. I mean, to know that there was 60, I ostensibly
Right now,
know how much Isser,
right,
how much
right now,
Heter,
the problem is
ordination.
right now there's no 60.
Right.
That's the problem.
Right. That's what I'm saying. If
Yeah.
I know that there was 60,
Right.
let's say I don't know how much Isser fell in.
Right.
I don't know how much Heter, but I know there is 60. Why? Because my wife told me so.
Right.
So would that be sufficient?
That will
Or
talk
do I
about.
actually need to know how much Isser? I don't
Yes.
need to know how much Heter.
Yes. Yeah, we'll talk about, that's a Taz. The Taz brings down a scenario of what happens when you don't, whether you know or not, the Isser.
Provided you know 60.
Exactly. That scenario is the Taz. We'll
I
talk
see.
about that soon. Yeah.
So why does Rabbi Akiva Eger insist you have to know? I mean,
That because the Rashba himself said that which I allowed for, in inferring from Rashi, is when I know, if I know how much Isser falls in.
that is, so it didn't say.
So exactly. So that even Rashi would agree, right? They learn in the Rashba that there has to have been Shishim there to begin with. That's the way they learn it. They say otherwise Rashi would not agree with it. Otherwise, even the Rashba wouldn't agree.
Rabbi
with
Kin,
it.
if we know there was 60,
Right.
and now I see there is no longer 60, then even if I don't know how much Heter was in there, I know that how much Isser was in there. I know that the Heter was disappeared
Right.
to a larger extent than the Isser, even if I don't know how much Isser was in. I just need to know that there was 60,
Yes.
and now there isn't any.
Right now there isn't.
So then I know.
And I have to go by what I have now, because even if I did once before, it doesn't help me. Now it's also.
Why wasn't?
See, even though before it was okay, but now it's not. So now it has become also.
If it was 60
So I need the blias in the
before,
Yeah,
pot.
yes.
if it was, and
Right.
it became a vat.
No, it wasn't a battle yet.
Well,
When
it
it
wasn't a
fell in,
It fell in.
it fell in. It started cooking. Yeah.
The moment it fell in, on the
Right.
sheet, and it should. So then why do I care later?
At this point, I see I don't have, and because I have to go by what I see right now.
Because
Because
if I knew, if hold that I
Right.
had to know when
right,
it was Mavatal the minute, the instant it fell in.
right. It's not. It wasn't. That's the problem. It's not exactly mizbato forever. You know, the bittul. I mean, you have to go by what you see right now. You know, that assumption of what it was before may be able to help me in some ways. It may, but not that it says, okay, the Isser's gone because there was bittul, there was shishim, and now, you know,
But due to that whole,
Yeah.
that bittul would be usher going to,
right,
and now it, right?
right,
It was at the moment that it fell, it was Mavatal, because you didn't sheet the year.
Right.
Then why do I care from the Lachaber at someone it's done?
yeah, because right now, you know, the shaila is being asked now, not then. You know, I have to go by when the shaila is being asked.
So that I
The
don't-
shaila is being asked right now.
then I-
Yeah.
then-
And we're going to see what the Ramah says about that. That we, yeah,
Sorry, I didn't want to
Yeah.
interrupt you.
right,
But I just wanted to
Right.
see if I understand correctly.
okay,
The Isser fell in the pot.
sure,
I had 60.
right,
Now it's cooking and cooking. Now I look in the pot and I have less than 60.
right,
I know for a certainty that all of the taste spread evenly throughout the 6 before I came to the situation where I no longer have 60. I don't know that.
No, we don't know those things.
Maybe
either.
the Isser preserved its taste
Right.
until the very last moment.
Everything is
So
possible.
now, when
right.
it released its taste, I
Right.
no longer had 60. I
Right.
need the 60 to bottle the taste.
Okay.
So now that I see before me, I no longer have 60. I don't know when the taste was released. It may have been released after there was no longer 60. So then I would have something that's ushered right now. So therefore, I can't rely on the fact that lahatchila, when the Isser fell in, it was 60. Because at the time the taste, I need the 60 to bottle the taste.
Right.
Okay, so when do I need the 60? When the taste is released and spreads evenly.
Yes, correct.
I don't know that happened while there was still 60.
Well, obviously, yeah.
It happens somewhere.
It happens
along
at
the
some
way.
point. Yes, sure.
No.
Yeah.
So I can't rely on the fact that
In the
there
beginning.
was 60
That's correct.
to say that the taste right now
That's
is
very.
bottled.
That's a true point. Yes, definitely.
That's what
That's
you meant?
further clarifying the reason why you can't just base it on what it was in the beginning.
Then why are they holding that you had to know in advance that it was in the head?
Because if there was not 60 in the beginning, it doesn't help you to the blias.
They want to be lenient here to include the blias. So they're saying the only way it could work is if you really have 60 altogether at some point, you had it.
So then you can assume.
Even though right now they're split. Part of it is in the pot, part of it is outside the,
But you had,
Let's say maybe you didn't have 60.
you didn't have 6 to begin with, and now in
So how can you use the blias? Just by assuming that they're in the walls? Well, we don't go for that.
Won't that up to more than 6, to more than you had in the beginning?
Yeah, but the thing
So
is,
you'd have less than 60.
if you don't know, how can
If you don't have 60.
Right. No, you have to have had 60 in order for me to be able to say, okay, I'm allowing you to combine what's in the pot and what's in the blias.
And the combination will be
Will be 60, yes. But if you don't know you had that, you just...
If I'm looking right now,
I don't see it.
wait a minute.
Right.
Theoretically,
Right.
I'm looking at it, and I would only see the mutter, I would the Isser.
Right.
Because the Isser may have possibly at a lower temperature,
Okay.
and it boiled away.
Right,
So if I'm only looking at it,
right.
what I have
Like the
in front
original
of me,
halacha, sure.
then why do I care what it was?
Because,
You can't,
right, no, if I'm looking at it right now, I don't have enough to be mevatel the Isser.
in theory, I may not even have any Isser. I may
No,
only
no,
have
but
a
we do.
looking
Now
We
I have enough.
We have Isser.
Let's say right now I'm looking at it and I have 60.
There's not a problem. There's not a problem. It's not a problem.
So the problem
Yeah.
begins where I'm looking at it and I can see here is the Isser, here is the header. And
I don't have
it's
enough.
less than 60.
Right now, I don't have enough in the pot unless I include the blias. That's all.
But if I include the Leos, will I have enough?
Yes, I will.
Depends how much if I had 60 in the beginning.
Oh, that's the way they learn.
That's what.
They learn that that's the only way the Rashba would be matter.
Right.
That he
Because-
would, yeah, that's the way Rabbi Kivegan and Prima Godim learn in the Rashba. Right.
If I only had 59 in the beginning,
Yeah.
adding whatever it went into the pots to the header
Right.
is not going to end up giving me 60 right now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but let's go on. The Prisha, I saw the Prisha brings down that from the two and the Rashba, it's mashma that they would be lenient even if they didn't know, even if you did not know how much Isser fell in. From the Prisha brings it's brought down that from the two and the Rashba, it's mashma that he would be makel even though you do not know how much Isser fell in. I believe that's, I was going to double check on that, but I believe that's what he says over there. He doesn't talk about the Shishim part, but he's mashma that the Rashba would not necessarily require that halacha lemaisa. We're talking about here min b'minoi.
So that would be exactly the
Let me see if that's what min b'minoi.
Yeah. It would be
That's the way it's also understood in the Beis Yosef.
Right, Kin.
Yeah.
Because in the middle, it'd be a kula result. I'm allowed to presume there was 60 because it's suffix to Rabbana. The kula, so I can say there was probably 60, and now it was absorbed into the.
I'm going to double check on that on the Prisha on that, but I remember that there's two ways of learning it. The Prima Godim Rebbe say that the Rashba would be making only in that situation min b'minoi, if you had both conditions. But from the Prisha appears to be learning, and I think the Prima Godim understood that in the Beis Yosef too. That's how they understand the Rashba, that you would need both conditions, even if they didn't know how much Isser fell in. Okay, but maybe we'll check this out another time. All right, let's go on. The Rambam. How does the Rambam learn this halacha? The Rambam says you are meshar by the blias of the Deah. The Rambam does learn if you look at the halacha in Macholas Asuras, he says that you are meshar by the blias of the Deah. And the reason for that, the Aruch HaShulchan explains, is very simple, because the Rambam holds tam ki'ikar is the Rabbanan. So he doesn't have a problem with being makel in this situation, including the blias as well. That's easy, right? Rashba explains in the Rambam simply holds that the blias are really like be'in, and because they're like be'in, we can include them. But the Rashba, halacha l'maisa, holds like the Mechaber, that we're not makel unless it's min b'minoi. Then there's no chash of the rice because it's batul b'rav. The Ramah, as we said before, has nothing to say about this, so he appears to be agreeing with the Mechaber. But the Taz and Shach, they seem to be very machmir. They bring down the Marshal that the halacha is not like this Mechaber. Even though I find this very funny, the Ramah doesn't have anything to say about it. Nevertheless, the Shach and Taz say, no, we don't go with this Mechaber. So what do we do? Based on this Machloikes, Abishach, Taz, and Machmir, so the Prima Godim brings down that in a Hefsed Meruba, if it's a big Tzorech Godol, in Min B'Mino, of course we're talking about, you could be Mekel. Kaf HaChaim says we're not even Mekel B'Hefsed Meruba, because he brings down that we're not experts today. We really do not know how to calculate blias. So you shouldn't use this even in a situation of a hefsed. The Kaf HaChaim, yeah, but la halacha lemaisa, if you really look at all the poskim, I think you will see a consensus. I think so. That because the Ramah is not choylek in the Mechaber here, and there's a pre-chodesh that says you can rely on the Mechaber in the Hefsed Meruba, so therefore you would be able to use this in a Hefsed Meruba situation, even though the Kapacham said no, and apparently you can. Apparently, I mean, I guess that's what they say, ask your Rav. These kind of situations. There is a pre-chodesh that says that in a Hefsed Gadol you can be Samech on the Mechaber.
We have Mishpitzot.
Yeah, I said that already. The Premier Gadol himself, but I think he remains in the Tzorech Iyun, even though he says that you can rely on Hefsed Meruba, it should be okay in Beminoi, but I think in the end of the Premier Gadol writes Tzorech Iyun. I don't think he 100% certain about it. Yeah, the Pre-Chodesh. Pre-Chodesh is Friday. Yeah.
But he lived before them, no?
Right, of course, a lot before, yeah. So anyway, based on everything, I think we can rely on the Hefsed Meruba, real Hefsed Meruba, that in a Min B'mino situation like the Mechaber and the Ramah. All right, now, what does the Taz have to add on this? The Taz has, I think, something interesting to add. That if we did not see if there was 60 or not, when the Isser fell, but now there is 60, okay? We did not see at the time that the Isser fell in, the Heter fell in, if there was 60. But now we see there is 60, okay? You don't have to suspect that the Heter was mismait, that the Isser was mismait more than the Heter. You don't have to suspect, to make an assumption, to say that, you know what, there must have been once upon a time more Isser too. Based on the fact that now you have Shishim, you're not machzik an Isser. Machzik an Isser means you don't make up an Isser that is not there right now. Because, the fact is, you don't know if there was 60 in the beginning. But now there is. So to make an assumption that perhaps, there was more Isser to begin with, but somehow, because of the cooking process, there's less now, and now there is 60. That we don't say.
So it's a too far-fetched suffix to be machmir about. Because if I don't know what's in the thing, it's a suffix. But now that I do know now that there is 60, so to then say suffix in the arais al-chumra is too far-fetched.
Right, too far-fetched a little bit. Even though you will find, I think that Dr. Chuba brings down somebody that is machmir in this. Yeah, Dr. Chuba, I think in Pre-Chodesh. Yeah, there is a chumra on this. But basically, that's the gist of this halacha. We don't need to really overanalyze this too much, because it can get a little bit confusing, this particular halacha of blias. Mechaber is very, very clear in making the distinction of min be'in aminoi and min be'minoi. The question is, what would the Rashba say, how you learn Rashi, if you knew, in the scenario where you knew, how much of the Isser fell in, would even Rashi agree?
I was in this case here.
Right.
Maybe the difference, I'm asking actually, could it be that the difference is a situation where we actually cannot establish it was through the cooking process?
Well, obviously that's part of the problem.
Whereas here we're in a situation where we see with our own eyes that there is no sin now.
Yes.
So that would make this situation a different
scenario, sure, of course. Yeah, because here we are looking at something versus the other one.
So the nishbach, which I didn't realize then, but in the nishbach, one condition that I actually cannot only tell what it was in the beginning, I also cannot tell what it is now.
That's correct, yeah. So we have to guess. But we do know that there was at least a roiv. So because of that, we're...
But I mean, we throw it out.
Right. Yeah,
It seems that Rabbi Elyahu is basically saying what there to begin with. How much is, sir? You need 60 at the beginning.
Plus Shishim, yeah. Both conditions.
The Rashba's fault. That's an
interpretation of the Rashba. Yeah. The Rashba doesn't say that. No, it's not clear. About the Shishim part, it's not clear. Yeah, because the Rashba himself said that's the way the Rashi would learn. The Lechor, if we did know how much Isser fell in.
So Rabbi Elyahu is adding the second amendment.
Right, and the Brim Megadim too. Right. Right. Sure. All right, let's quickly go over to Sif Hey. Ein mevatlin Isser lechatchila. Okay, another sugya in itself, and let's make it easy. This is not too difficult. Ein mevatel iser lechatchila really means two things. It means you can't throw an iser into a pot of heter and make it disappear. That's what one bitul iser means. Throw an iser into heter. The second scenario of bitul iser means that it already fell in, but there's not enough to be mevatel, and now I want to pour some more, whatever, heter, to cancel out the iser. That's the second scenario. You understand both situations? They're both called bitul iser. But it says lechatchila, of course, because most of Taaruvot is about b'di'evet, right? So lechatchila, I can't do that.
Which is
All right.
lechatchila. This word lechatchila. I always thought it means lechatchila.
No, lechatchila means to begin with, intentionally.
Because lechatchila
No,
in the beginning
no. Yeah,
would be the
it's
hey.
similar because it's a Gemara word.
It's not a Hebrew word.
It's not a really.
It's Aramaic.
Yeah,
Ah.
or a Mishneh or Mishneh Gemara word.
Mishnah
Yeah, exactly. Lechatchila. In other words, in English, the best word would be by default, maybe a close word for it. By default, meaning lechatchila. This is the halacha by default, but b'di'evet, right? It's different. B'di'avad is also not an Aramaic word. B'di'avad, the correct pronunciation is like not the Ashkenazi pronunciation. B'di'evet, it's b'di'avad. It has been done already. It has already happened already. Avad, happened, done with. Whereas lechatchila is as I begin to observe the situation.
Mishnah Hebrew word,
yeah, definitely, for sure.
So it's the same word, basically.
Yeah,
But it's,
similar, right.
Same family.
Right. Okay, now, this bitul isur lechatchila. Let's read the Mechaber first. Even if it fell into a heter that there's not enough to be cancelled out, you cannot add more heter to cancel it out. All right, before we go to the second part of the Mechaber of what happens if you did, nevertheless, let's just explain a little bit about bitul isur lechatchila. Is it the Raisa or the Rabbanan? So machlokes, yeah.
I think we passed it. I think it's the
Yeah, Tosfos holds that it's the Rabbanan, and the Raavad seems to hold, so does there are, that it's an Isur D'Oraisa. Even though b'di'evet he may agree that it would be mutter, but as you already saw probably, the Halacha, the Shach brings down, the Roif of the Poskim hold that it's the Rabbanan. By the way, what's the nafkamina? Anybody know a nafkamina if it's the Rabbanan or the D'Oraisa? What difference is it of Isur of bitul isur lechatchila?
What would make it this?
So Pri Megadim brings down one nafkamina. Let's say you have a situation here in a pot that you're mistapek whether an isur fell in or not.
Right.
You don't know for sure if it fell in.
Yes.
Could you add now just to be on the safe side? If it's the Raisa, it's a Safi D'Oraisa. If it's the Rabban, right.
Depends what kind of isur.
Talk about an isur D'Oraisa.
If it's an isur D'Oraisa,
Right.
you couldn't.
If
Because
it's-
but the Shulchan, that's exactly what we had to say.
Right.
We had to consult with you.
Yeah.
But the Shulchan explains it.
Right.
He says that since the Isser the Oraisa,
Right.
so therefore, even though we hold being Mevatel Isser Lachila is a Rabbanan, but nonetheless it inherits the din of
Okay, that's
Umrah from the.
so he doesn't like it.
And he says there are those that are Mekel.
Right. Right. The Maisa, that's why we would be Machmer in any event, because of what the Bada Shulchan perhaps says. But the Pri Megadim says this could be enough kamina. If you don't know, could you be Moisif? Well, if it's an Isser, if it's Bitul Isser D'Oraisa, then it's a Safi D'Oraisa. If it's the Rabbanan, then it's okay. That's just, in theory at least. Yeah.
I think we see, as I recall, we saw it in Basar Rambam hold, they give you a chicken soup, or
Yeah.
could you mevatel some is
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be. But anyway, the Pri Megadim, the Maskana, he says very simple. The reason why we don't say you could do that, if this would be the scenario, he says because Safed Rabbanan Lekula, you only say after the fact. Something happened, Safed Rabbanan Lekula. But if something hasn't happened yet, for you to go intentionally and do that now, that we don't say Safed Rabbanan. We don't apply a Safed Rabbanan in that kind of a scenario. All right, let's go through a few quick possibilities of Bitul Isser. What is?
This Pri Megadim.
Yeah. Okay.
If I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's an Isser D'Oraisa, and if it fell in pot.
All right.
Wouldn't at this point I have to say suffix Doraisa, I have to assume it.
I don't know if it's following. That's the thing.
So I have a suffix.
Right.
But it's a suffix regarding an Issa Doraisa.
Right.
If it was an Issa Dorabanan that fell in and I don't know.
But there's no chazaka. Remember, the chazaka is that this is mutter. It's not a real suffix.
So it's not a suffix.
Suffix deraisa, no. When we learn sfeikas, we'll learn about
if
that.
I have a chazaka that it's not in there.
I don't know if this. I don't even know if it's in there. I don't even know if what telling is usher. I don't know.
So if I have a chazaka that it's mutter,
right.
why do I even have a problem with why do I even have a problem with asur levatel isur l'achila? Why do I even have a problem with?
That's the question. That's what the Prima Gordon seems
not
to.
Even be applicable.
Yeah, but if it's isur, it's an isur deraisa, and to be mevatel and isur is a deraisa, so it somehow becomes a suffix deraisa. The Prima Gordon said the whole
That
thing.
would be the same as
Similar, very similar. Exactly. I think so. Very similar. I'm not sure. I didn't look at it inside thoroughly. I didn't go through the whole thing. But it could be, it's very similar. But real quickly, as far as Bittul Isser, we know what the halacha is. The halacha is that Avar Bitloi, that if you went ahead and was Mevatalet, or Sheribalavu, you added, in Beshoigig Mutter, in Bemezid Osir. If it was not Beshoigig, it's Mutter. If it was Mezid, it's Osir, and Mevatal Atzmo, to the one who did it, Imu Sheloi, if it's his. V'chen Amishan is Batal B'Shvilo, to whoever it was cancelled for, or Bittul for. Okay. So the Mechaber tells us the situation is as follows. If it was nevertheless done b'shoigeg, it's okay. If it's b'mezid, it's not good. And depending on who it was done for yourself or for others. What happens if you don't know what the halacha? You didn't know the halacha of Bittul Isser. Here, Ilan? You didn't know if you're allowed to do it or not. Is that called a shoigeg or not? According to the Prima Godim and the Taz, not knowing the halacha, if you're allowed to mevatel the Isser, is a shoigeg. It's all considered a shoigeg. What is that?
Like Shabbos.
Oh. We're going to talk a little bit about that soon. We're going to talk a little bit about Shabbos in a minute. Yeah. Yeah, we're going to talk about that, yeah. In Shabbos, there's three kinds of unknowns in the Mishnah. I didn't know about Shabbos. I didn't know today is Shabbos. I didn't know that the Melicha is also, right? So the question is how many korban chatas you have to bring. Yeah, that's what that Mishnah in Perek Shvi is all about, yes.
Is the Mechaber said raw food is also b'hanori yud?
No, that he never said. You can't make somebody else's food also. In this case, you actually did. There are things you can't. In this case, you did.
But is saying exactly that.
That's what he said.
But the Shulchan is saying, that as a penalty for the cook, the person the food was intended for may not eat it.
Right. No, there is a situation where you cannot be oiser davar she'eino, it's not yours. But here it's a fact. The isser is there, so you can't damage somebody else's food. But here it's a knas. It's not a real isser.
Right. So food is someone else could eat it.
So it's bottles. It's only a knas that we don't allow it for those who did it intentional. So if he did it to you and you didn't ask for it, v'lo nichalei, what we're going to soon see, you don't want it even, then it would be okay for you. I'm going to bring out these differences.
But the Shulchan brings out according to the language of Mechaber,
right.
That if the cook is the owner and has
right.
no intention of...
I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about all these differences real quickly. All right, so from the Rambam, it's not mashma like that not knowing the din would make a difference. So obviously, if you were forced into it, or let's say you forgot. You knew the halacha, but you simply forgot, even though it's closer to being negligent, it should still be called a shoigeg. The Aruch HaShulchan brings down a very interesting question. There's a halacha later on, I think it's Siman Kuf, where in Dovash, it's a Kuf or Kuf Yud actually. It's something that is not bottled because of its chashivas. Yeah, it's later on. That a piece of it, because it's not bottled, but a piece of it fell into the water.
Into the ocean.
Right, into the ocean, right. Yeah. So we say it's mutter only if it fell by itself, not if you threw it. Even if even if it was done b'shoigeg. If you did it, even if it's b'shoigeg, it doesn't count. So it says, what's the difference between here and there? Here we say shoigeg is okay, and there shoigeg is not okay. Nice question. Over there, only if the piece fell out by itself into the ocean, to the water, do we say it's okay. We say that piece fell. And here, we say that the shoigeg is fine. Over there, shoigeg is not good. So Aruch HaShulchan asks a good question. What's the difference between the halacha here and the halacha over there? Why is shoigeg okay here and shoigeg not okay there? There, it has to either happen by itself or it doesn't count.
What is the key?
It fell into the sea. Let me read it to you. It's the halacha kuf yud dover she'eino boto mas machashivusoi. It's mamish towards the end. Shenis arv be'acherim. It's all mixed up. Benofal me'ataaruvos azois, אחד לשניים אחרים ונופל מן השלושה אחד לשניים אחרים, האלו אל אחרים מותרים, שעל אחד של תערובות הראשון הבוטל ברוי, ואם נופל אחד מהתערובות הראשון לאלף, כולם אסור ונופל בוטל ברוי ולאט יש ספק ספקה. Okay, where is that? Yeah, that you're right. That one is a different one. I read Ches. Zayin is davar she'eino bottom of machashus gegon bale chaim birya bechatich aruyus kabed bedavar she'ish lo matir she'isarav me'acher v'nechal echad mehem b'shoigeg or nofal me'atzmo layam. That's the one. You're right. Zayin. That it completely disappeared. Hutru kol acherim she'anutoilin lo ma'isur alachla. We're saying that the isur is the one that left or went away. But here we don't say shoigeg. Here it had to have happened. 1 second. It was eaten b'shoigeg. Yeah. Anyway, his question concerns the nofal me'atzmo layam. Nofal me'atzmo. That's the word. By itself, on its own. Yeah. Why over there shoigeg doesn't help? So he says, over there we're goizer shoigeg otumezid. And here we're not goizer shoigeg otumezid that he's actually going to mevatel intentionally. But over there, it could happen that. If we allow for shoigig, we would happen in the mazid. But anyway, just
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Here we're talking about where he didn't know it was Isser that he was being.
Over there, it fell off. It fell by itself. And here we're saying it didn't happen by itself. I mean, you actually were involved in doing it, and still it's mutter. Why not over there?
I didn't understand.
Why
the case
here?
Here
Here we're talking about the bittul, the situation of bittul isser,
yes.
right?
But there's some
Yeah.
shoigig involved, yes?
Right. So why here is shoigig is mutter, over there shoigig is not?
What is the shoigig here?
Here that you added.
You did. What is the shoigig?
No, there's different kinds of shoigig.
So you didn't know.
One shoigig is you didn't know that the nisser fell in.
Okay,
right.
so there I don't need to worry about Mesa. There's no way that you will be adding.
Exactly.
So you didn't know for
Exactly. We're not going to be goizer. We're not going to be goizer because of the dynamics of this situation. That you can in the future also do it that way.
It's not shy to say Mesa then if you don't know.
No, but in some ways it is shyer because if I know I can do it, I know that it's mutter. Maybe I will do it when I do know.
But I never knew that the Isser fell in and I added more head.
Yeah. Well,
So how about
all right. No. But what if you do know the isser fell in?
So then it's not a shoigig.
Huh?
Maybe.
No, but you forgot. Remember, there's one of the situations of shoigig is you forgot.
Might have thought it was already bottom.
Whatever, yeah. So anyways, there's different kind. But you're right. The ikar din, you're right. It's not so shayach in the Metzias that it could happen over here that we have to be goizer. Yeah. Okay, just to finish up a little bit more.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
And let's say he forgot.
Right.
Let's say we're talking about he forgot. So he had Isser fell in.
Right.
He forgot his fell in and now he's adding heter.
Let's say he thought
Because
that.
he forgot.
There's a situation where he thought the halacha is you're allowed to mevatel the isser. What do we say about that? Yeah, I think the Taz brings that one down.
But he would never do it
Yeah.
b'mezid because he thought the halacha was good. It would
Yeah.
always end up being a shik.
Yeah.
He would never
Yeah.
b'mezid be a mevatel and Isser because
Right.
he thought
Unless he forgot that, which is a
So if he
situation.
forgot, it would also be a shoik. It wouldn't be
Yeah.
a mezid.
Or you want to have. Here's another interesting.
Or I can.
Yeah.
I just want to know if
Yeah.
I understand mezid correctly.
Right.
Mezid means I know the Isser fell inside. I know you're not allowed to do it, and I know that I'm being mevatel.
Right.
If any
That's
of
a
these
real
three
mezid.
things- If any of these three things I'm not aware of,
Right. That's
it's not a mezid.
exactly. That's the question. That's the question. Is the question. What if I forgot? So some say that's not a real shoigi. Some say it is a
How
shoigi.
can it be a mezid if I forgot?
Huh? Because
I'm
you
not
knew.
doing it with dafka.
Yeah. No. Because you knew that it's also to do it. So it's closer to negligence. It's not a real
My
shoigi.
forgetting might be closer to negligence.
Negligence,
But
yes.
it's still not mezid.
You're right. So that's why some say it's
So
okay.
there could be another.
Right. So that's why some say shochach is okay. What if?
Sorry.
Yeah. What if you ask a shaila? Okay, this is an interesting one. You ask the shaila, is am I allowed to mevatel or whatever, and you got a psak, and it turns out that the psak was the wrong psak. So that's still a shoigig because it's not your fault.
It's your
Yeah.
fault.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So there's different kinds of shoigig. I just want to finish up over here with the Taz and the Ran bring down some interesting situations here. Just briefly, what I saw. It concerns the halacha and Siman Pei Daled about nemalim, ants in honey. Did you come across that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, we said it on the...
You had some honey
No,
with
not
ants in
honey.
it?
We said it on the halacha.
You said it in the halacha? Yeah. So over there it talks about heating up the honey and then filtering out, whatever is left over. So even though you're being mevatel the isser of the tam, of the nemolim, over there it's okay.
Through heating it up.
Through heating it up. Or the other situation where the shach brings down that you're allowed to grind, which I'm sure you looked at too, chitim metulois, wheat that is warmy, that's been warmed, you see. You're allowed to grind it up. Why is that okay? Why are those grinding? That means you're basically eliminating any isser that potentially
Not necessarily eliminating it, but you're eliminating it being nicker.
it's being nicker if it's there, So we're talking about now bitul isser. You're not a mevatel isser lechatchilas. Grinding wheat. You're going to grind it.
That has worms.
That it has potentially has worms because it's warming, right? Potentially has worms because it's warming, and similar to the other detail that the Taz brings down with the honey and the worms. Through the process, whatever it is that you're doing, whether the grinding of the wheat or the honey that you're filtering and heating up and so forth, isn't that a form of bitul isser lechatchila? So they bring those two situations down. So what do you say about that?
So the Taz says the intention is to accomplish a different purpose, and as a side effect, being mevatel the illah.
But then it's not called a real bitul isser lechatchila. Why? Because it's a suffix if there's going to be an isser here mixed in to begin with, and that's not your kavanah either. Your kavanah in those two situations is just to filter, to be metakin the dvash, the honey.
To remove the isser.
Right. Your kavanah with the tchina of the taloim is also, it's not something that you're 100% sure that there is an isser that you're not actually doing that for that purpose. If your kavanah in what you're doing is not to be mevatel the isser, but it happens or it may happen as a result of your actions, the Shach and the Taz, I think the Shach too, they both say that that's not called bitter isser lechatchila.
You mean you say Yashua their diesel?
No, with the chitim.
But let's say the honey. This is the example we had.
Yeah, even with the honey is a good example. You know there were ants.
No, but ants.
But what you're really doing there is being metakin the dvash. So even though as a result, no, the bees, you don't see bees.
Okay, so there's ants. You can see the ants.
Yeah. But but you're filtering out the ants. It's just the tam that is through the heating.
They're there.
Right. It's only through the tam that is being cancelled out. Through your actions, you're actually being mevatel the tam.
Because now it's spreading.
Through your actions, you're actually eliminating something here. That is usher. An isser. This is not a bitul isser because your intention is not to do that.
Now Shalom had a problem with that, if I quote you.
Yeah.
And that is, they were saying, it is heating up that the Isser B'chal is affecting the honey.
Yes, that's correct.
So you wanted to say that, well, I'm not sure what you want to say. There's no Isser, there is no pre-existing Isser that you're being mevatel. It is your act of being mevatel the Isser that causes the Isser to come into existence. That is, the honey didn't have taste of ants until you heated it up.
Yes, that's correct.
Until you heated it up.
Right.
So the act of being mevatel the Isser is what brings the Isser into the world in the first case.
Yes. Okay,
So
yes.
I wanted to say, so that's
but indirectly, you're still being mevatel. So that was the question of the Taz. So the answer is, that's not your kavanah here. Your kavanah is to be metakin dvash. But anyway, there's a Ran that says, asks a good question. What about clay midyan? The kelim for the Midianites, you were allowed to make hagala even though they were b'nei yoiman. They were used on that day. We don't make hagala for kelim that we use. We wait till the following day for whatever variety of reasons, right? So how could you do it? It's mevatel the isser of the kelim. Right.
Wait, did they wait over?
Yeah.
Why were they
Right. So no, because it was mutter. What's the reason for it? Especially according to the Raiva that it's also lechatchila.
So maybe
mevatel isser, right?
So maybe they held it was it a Rabbanan?
Huh?
Maybe they held it was it a
The isser. So he says very nicely. He says the isser of being mevatel isser is for us to be able to enjoy the isser. Here we're not enjoying the isser. We're getting rid of it.
So now being mevatel,
we're removing it. The idea of being mevatel the isser that I am now allowed to is when I am going to be.
That was my question to Rabbi Elyahu.
I'm going to be enjoying the isser.
That was exactly my question to Rabbi Elyahu. How come we don't call every Hagala?
Yeah, I separated it out. That's not.
That was exactly my question to Rabbi Elyahu. How come we don't call every Hagala being about L'Sah?
Right. Yeah. So that's the Ran, famous Ran. That I'm getting rid of it. What do you want? Getting rid of it. The isser is if I want to enjoy it. But anyway, real quickly, the Mechaber says that we don't apply a penalty to the one who's mevatel isser b'shoigeg. This brings back memories of Hilchos Shabbos. In Hilchos Shabbos, as you know, there's a distinction between if a goy did something for you that is aser, or whether a Jew did it. If a goy did something for you that he was aser for you to do, there's a knas that you have to wait Motzei Shabbos the amount of time that it would take for him to do it, so that you do not benefit from this. But if a Jew did it, it's mutter. It's a machlokes in the Gemara. It's mutter right away Motzei Shabbos for others, not for him necessarily. For him, it's asur le'olam.
For whom? Who's the him?
The one who did it, the Jew who did it, for him, it's always asur.
But if he did it for his wife,
Also,
She is not allowed to.
for the one who he did it, somebody brings down that it would be Asr. Yes. B'nei Beiso. I'm going to talk about it in a minute. But, right, that's the halacha Hilchos Shabbos. Yisrael that did cooked on Shabbos, that's the halacha. Kuf Yud Ches, right? Where is it?
Kuf Yud Ches is cooking.
Kuf Yud Ches, no, I know, but that halacha in Bishul, is there. That if an Yisrael did it, for him it's also La'olam, like Rabbi Yehuda. For others, it's mutter right after Shabbos. That's if he did it b'mezid. If he did it b'shoigeg, it's mutter for him to right after Shabbos. If it was a b'mezid. Now, wait a minute. What's the difference between a Jew and a goy? Because by goy we're concerned that you may ask the goy to do it again. So the Chacham said, you know what? There's a penalty. You're going to have to wait, so you don't gain anything by asking a goy to do it to you. By a Jew, we're not choishish that you're going to tell a Jew to do it again. So that's why it's mutter right after Shabbos. That's the difference in the halacha between a goy having done something for you, or a Jew having done something for himself and for you.
Right. But by the Shabbos,
right.
If I asked the Jew for me,
right,
I wouldn't be able to, how long how long I wait.
Obviously, right.
So what's the point of comparison?
No. The point of comparison is, I'm trying to get to the point here of what the Mechaber says here. There's going to be a distinction whether he did it for himself, he did it for you, he did it for you, but you didn't want it, you don't care for it. That's where all of this makes a difference. Okay? So let's quickly go through these halachas of knas. I just gave you Hilchos Shabbos, so you should have them, but real quickly. According to the Ramah, the knas of Bitul Isser includes, actually we should read it from the inside. Vasurim limkor gamken liYisrael acher shelo yehenu mima shebitlo. U'lishar kol adam mutar. You're not even going to sell it, the Ramah says, to another individual to benefit from it. Okay, so it's also if it was done b'mezid, it's also the mevatel asmo, and also l'meshe mevatel b'shvilom. And the Ramah says that you can't even benefit from it by selling to somebody else. So the Shach says on that, you can't sell it for a full price, but if you sell it for a little bit of a lesser price, it would be permissible. The Pri Chodosh disagrees with the Ramah and says that there's no problem selling it.
Are we talking about something that is asr? Are we talking about something that is to benefit?
No, it's not also to benefit here. It's a bittul isur that was done b'mezid. So the Ramah says can't benefit even by selling it. It was b'mezid. The Shach says you could earn a little bit less for it. And the Pri Chodosh says it's completely mutter. There's no such thing as an isur to benefit from. Why? Because he explains the whole isur of the knas. The whole idea behind the knas was for you to enjoy what you just did, but to sell it to somebody else, and that there was no knas. The Rambam says that the isur here is only that the whole Taaruvot was only asr for those who it was misbattle for, but not for anybody else. And the Rashba also says that the same will apply if the same deal would be for those that it was misbattle for. So I guess they would all be in agreement. You see here? Yeah, so I think the Rambam is pretty much in agreement that it only applies for those specifically that it was done for. Beis Yosef brings a question. Ein adam choyte v'lo loy. The Gemara says that a person does not just commit some transgression and he doesn't have something from this, and there should really have not been any knas for others at all, even if it was misbattle for them. And so he says it's also a form of gzera because people may not be aware that there's an isser here, and therefore they were concerned. Or if you allow it, they will do so in the future, and because of that, the Beis Yosef explains that is why Nizbatul Acher is also Asr. In other words, it may repeat itself. Beis Yosef also brings down from the Lashon HaTur is mashma that the knas to the mevatel is only if it's his, or if it was in skaven mevatel le'atzmoy. But if it was not his, or he did not, of course, intend to do it, then it wouldn't apply.
So he prepared it for his boss.
Right.
And he had no intention of taking it out. And it's not his. He doesn't own it. Now that his boss can't eat it, he himself.
Right. So that would be the only situation where it'd be usher for the ones he did it for, but it would be mutter for himself. Did you see that one?
Yeah.
In other words, it's not his. Yeah. Another one, a Yamshel Shlomo I saw that brings down that the knas is right. It also applies to the Bnei Beiso. That's right. Not only for himself, because Bnei Beiso are considered like himself. Yeah. There's a Taz that speaks a little bit about it. Yeah, but Taz makes a very important point that anytime you don't want it and you don't care for it, then there's no knas does not apply, which is a very important point when it comes to non-kosher ingredients today. Because there's one of the big questions in the kosher supervision is when the goyish company puts in Isser, and they're mevatel et lechatchila by 200, but it's bittul Isser lechatchila, and here they're doing it for you. So you see, you can't just say that it's b'shoigig or it's b'di'evid, because they're doing it for you. That's one of the big problems today in non-kosher ingredients that are bottle. in 200. And it's not something that is not bottled, something that is not bottled, but it's bittul l'sel lechatchila. And they're doing it for you. But you don't want it. You don't care for it. You don't need it. Or do you? Depending on what the ingredient is. So that's one of the issues that they need to contend with. Even if you say something is gone, it's a bittul l'sel lechatchila.
How do you call it a bittul l'sel lechatchila? Is their intention to be mevatel? Why would I?
Well, yeah, but that's exactly what's happening. Remember, that's why I brought in Shabbos and brought in the Goy, because because here other people are doing it for you. Whether you told them or not, it doesn't make a difference, because it is for you. And if it is for you, it should be also for you too.
So in other words, by you buying,
it's not the kebab, it's just eating up the honey.
Why is it like the honey? No, they're actually putting in an isser. It just happens to be that it's so diluted that it's bottle, but it's bottle lechatchila. You mevatel it lechatchila.
It's not the honey.
Well, it is.
what he's saying, the moment you come and buy it, it's as though they were acting as agent.
Yeah.
And your kavanah is yes.
Yeah.
You want to benefit from the fact that it was mispatel.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it wasn't mispatel, you wouldn't be able to eat it, right? If it wasn't a portion of 1 to 200 or what, you wouldn't be able to take that medicine. It wasn't mispatel.
Yeah. Anyway,
So your interest is that they should.
Yeah. Anyway.
By buying it, you thereby have added that kavanah to it.
Yeah.
Which they didn't have.
We're going to go into it a little bit more on Thursday, because there's a few more halachas in the Ramah, but there's just one quick detail that you already learned, and that the Ramah does bring down someone to be mechalek between noida and no noida.
Uh-huh.
Okay? There's someone to say, okay, that's something that we'll cover another time. Unless it was added before we knew about the Taaruvot. Once we know, it would not help me what is later added. If that's the case, the Chacham would have to figure out when was it added. So he says we don't follow this. What does that mean? So the Levush explains that what is Ramah saying, is because in reality, the bottom line, it makes no difference. Because even if it's Noida or Lo Noida, in any event, we're Mekel. We all consider it the Shoygig. Because if the actual Maisa happened to Shoygig, it's Shoygig. Noida, Lo Noida. So therefore, Lo Noagu means that we don't look into it. We don't try to figure out Noida, Lo Noida. We will see that there is a Rashba. That there is, of course, one who says that there's a big difference of when you say Nasan Nevela. But as far as Bittul Isser, the Ramah says the world is not makbid on this, even though some say there should be a distinction between Noida and Lo Noida. We're not mechalek. That's someone to say, but we're lo noagu ken. In the end, we don't follow that. So what does it mean we don't follow that? Because in the Maisa, it doesn't make a difference.
Lamed base.
Yeah.
He does follow it except for the fact he doesn't follow.
Yeah. No. Okay. We don't. That's what he means. Yeah. And that's what the Levush explains. The Levush explains in the Ramah. What do you mean? Because it doesn't make a difference anyway. In any event, it's all considered a shoygig. No, it doesn't. In the end, we don't hold that. We don't hold by that. Only the Gabi Bittul Isser. Okay? In Bichlal, the whole idea of Noida Lo Noida Kimat does not apply anywhere. But we'll talk a little bit more about it on Thursday when we talk about Hanan, whether the Hanan becomes Hanan if there was Noida or not. Remember that one? There is a sheet that holds there's no Hanan unless there was Noida.
Yeah.
So, but here we're talking about the Bittul Isser. That the Bittul Isser is still going to be considered the Shoygeg, even though we knew of the Taaruvos. And then it fell in a little bit less. I would think it would make a difference, but the Ramah says in the end we're not mechalek. Okay. Yeah, so we'll continue that on Thursday, Mr.